Here we go.
Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Saturday, and today is BK Day. And I don't mean Burger King. I mean Bryan Kohberger, the other kind of burger. And we're going to get straight into the meat and potatoes, as I appreciate it's the weekend, and you guys have got lots and lots of stuff to do. So let's crack on, because for this, we're going to head into the PCA, right? I'm going to go back in there, because we're talking about woes. We're talking about the woes of phone pings and things like that, and just trying to clarify some things for you. Trying to clarify some things while I simultaneously try and get this lined up on the screen. So we try and get that so you can see a bit more of it. Don't understand why that's going over there. That'll do. Right. So this is the problem, right? Is a lot of people in comments are still talking about phone pings, pinging Bryan Kohberger in the area. They're still talking about the stalking issues, they're saying that he was a stalker, which is what the PCA wanted you to believe. But there's also some issues in amongst this that a lot of people are ignoring, which I believe was an attempt by law enforcement to push a certain narrative, but in a way themselves also screwing up what they were talking about and getting themselves tied up in a bit of a knot here. So if we start here to start with, right? So November 13th, and this is from the PCA, it's straight off the PCA. This isn't me making stuff up. This is reading straight out of it, right? So November 13th, 2022, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m, after determining that Kohberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone and these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilising cellular towers resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. So basically, they've got nothing that attaches him to this area at this time. They've got no evidence of that. So by their own statement in here, we looked at it, we looked into it, and it didn't show him near this, right? So obviously that straight away doesn't go with trying to tie someone to a property where this murder is, does it? That doesn't help them whatsoever, because it's saying that it doesn't show that he's there, that he's not utilising the tower in close proximity to King Road. So they have to go on a little bit of a tangent here. So he turns around and says, based on my training, experience and conversations with law enforcement officers that specialise in the utilisation of cellular telephone records as part of investigations, individuals can either leave their cellular telephone at a different location before committing a crime. Like if you was going to commit a crime and you was pretty au fait about how you might get found out, like by tracking your phone and stuff like that, you might decide to leave your phone at home, because that would probably be the best thing to do. I'm going to leave my phone at home so it appears I'm at home. You might even set it running, maybe on TikTok or something like that, and then go and do this crime and then just go home, wouldn't you? It's possible, but stick a pin in it, right? So they go with this. He's turned his phone off so you don't know where he is, which automatically feeds into the narrative, oh yeah, he was hiding where he switched his phone off so he didn't know where he was. Didn't know, which would work if you're talking about a stupid motherfucker who didn't really think things through, which Bryan Kohberger, I believe, would have been someone who would have probably thought this through a little bit better. But stick a pin in it and follow me on this journey for a second. So individuals can leave the phone, blah, 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 blah. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in a particular area when a crime is committed. So check this out, right? So he then goes on to say, so remember, turning your phone off to conceal where you are on the night of the crime. But I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. Depending on the circumstances, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of a crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cell phone at a separate location or turn it off, since they do not plan to commit an offence on that particular day. So what they're saying is, and what they're going to go on to say, is that Bryan Kohberger had come into this area multiple times, and on these occasions, he had his phone turned on. So that's how they can say he was in the area. Because they're going to turn around and say, well, we can prove that he was in the area because we've got his cell data. So what they're in a roundabout way saying here is, we believe that he switched his phone off on the night of the crime. We can't prove that he was at the scene of the crime because we've got no evidence that he was there, but we can kind of think back to how this could likely happen, speculate again. But what we can do is prove that he was here 12 other times, which feeds into the stalking narrative. Are you with me so far? Because this is going to get worse if you pay attention, right? So it says this could be done through a commission of a crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual will not leave a cellular phone, right? So there you're with me so far. So night of the crime, day of the crime, phone off, 12 times visiting and doing numerous things, which Ann Taylor would later, after this, turn up and say, well, you knew what he was doing on these days. He had his phone turned on, so you knew he went here, you knew he went here, you knew he went here and did this and did that and done the other. And what you also know is that none of these times did he go anywhere near 1122 King Road. But you left that out of here. So you're pushing stalking. Carry on, because again, this is going to get worse, right? So we go further through, and we're going to come down to here. Which we've got this traffic stop, and they're obviously tracking him on this specific day, right? They're tracking him on this specific day, and here we go. Here, look. So it goes approximately 2:47. 84 stops reporting to the network. It's even consistent with the phone being an area without cellular coverage. Connection to the network is disabled. So this is what they're saying on the night of the crime, right? That the phone goes off at 2:47 a.m. and it comes back on at 4:48 a.m. So bearing in mind that they saw the white Hyundai Elantra leaving the scene of the crime. This is what they're trying to say at 4:20. So what they're saying is there is a period of 28 minutes, approximately 28 minutes, before Bryan Kohberger turns his phone back on after the crime. Because they're already saying that he turned his phone off to conceal his whereabouts. So what they're saying is 28 minutes after he committed the crime, he turned the phone back on. Does that make sense? First of all, we have to ask, does that make sense? So he's done this crime. Not only has he not left his phone at home to conceal his location, 28 minutes after leaving this property, he turns it back on, and he's not even home. He's not on the way home, so he's turned his phone back on while he's on the journey, which again is bewildering. But again, let's stick a pin in it. And we're going to go down to here. So not to scroll through, I want to show you this as well, because we've obviously got this here that says that he in one breath they're saying that cellular resources would provide coverage to the King Road, and this was between 9:12 and 9:21. But then at the end of this they turn around and say investigators found that the 8458 phone did not connect to a cell tower that provides service to Moscow, but they're basically saying he wasn't there. So even though he connected to a tower, the phone connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that day. Here we go, look. But investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. So he's connected to a tower, not there. But this is where it gets worse. I'm going to come over to this here, because I'm just conscious of scrolling through this, as I took some screenshots of it. And he says this, right? He turns around and says, where are we? Additional analysis of records indicated that approximately 5:26. So here we go. Additional analysis of records. This was the day of the traffic stop. Indicated that between approximately 5:32 and 5:36, the 8458 phone utilised cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Now, that is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone travelled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. So I'm thinking to myself, so hold on a second, you're saying that the phone stops reporting to the network on the day of the traffic stop that they are bringing out to, again, try and bolster stalking. It stops reporting from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So what is that? 5:36 p.m. at 8:30 p.m. I'll see if I can find it, just so you can see it yourself. Because you think to yourself, but that's 3 hours. That is actually 3 hours. So what are you actually talking about there? Because you in one breath you're saying he's turning his phone on 28 minutes after the crime took place, right? And then on the next breath you're turning around and saying that his phone was off for 3 hours out of service on the day that he had the stop. Here we go. So here we go here. So this starts at the stop, look, with Duke. Further analysis of the record showed 8 foot resources on November 13th, 2022, blah, 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 blah. They list like various places that he goes. So they literally following him around on this day. Approximately blah blah blah. So they're literally following around. At no point does he go anywhere near the 1122 King Road. This is just someone out for the day doing numerous things in the area. And here we go, look. So this is the bit. So this is page 18. Additional analysis of records for the 8458 phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 and 5:36, the 8458 phone utilises cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone travelled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. And I can't work that out. Please tell me down below what he's talking about. Because that, to me, that's saying that there's a period of 3 hours that this phone is off. But on the night of the crime, in the period after the murders, the phone is actually off the network for 28 minutes, not 3 hours. So this has no relevance whatsoever to a comparison to the day of the crime. In fact, this would be more consistent with Bryan Kohberger going into an area that the entire time frame, the 3 hours, makes more sense, because this is around 3 hours time, just around 3 hours, which if you factor in when Bryan Kohberger's phone went off on the night of the crime, the entire time period from 2:47 whatever all the way around to 4:48, you've got a bigger bulk of time. You've got 2 hours there, which is more consistent with Bryan Kohberger spending time in an area of no signal than... I don't get it, because even if you want to say here, okay, between 5:36 p.m. and 8:30 p.m, that's consistent with his phone being in the area. So what is it? Because on one hand you're saying on that day his phone was on and he's going to leave it on because he's got no intention of committing a crime, but then his phone on this same day stops reporting to the network. So what you're saying is that he then decided that he's going to turn it off because he's doing surveillance, when in one breath you're saying he wouldn't because he's not committing a crime, and then you're saying that it's not, it's not connecting to the network. So what is it? Is he turning his phone off then, or is it just not reporting to the network because he's out of signal? Because they're not going to admit that he's out of signal here, because it then proves that he can go into an area and there is no signal. But in a way, you've already said that, because you've said that his phone was on the entire day. That's where you can track him all over the place, and then it just happens to go off at this time. So what you're suggesting, that he literally turned his phone off because he was going to drive this route that he drove after the murders, which in this case took 3 hours, but on the actual night of the crime took 28. Or the phone reporting on the tower. You see what I mean? It's all these little things. The devil's in the detail. In one breath, they want you to believe that we've got him on this. We've got him tracked on these multiple times coming into Moscow, Idaho, and he didn't turn his phone off, and then somehow it weren't reporting on the tower. But ignore that bit. Then on the night of the crime, we've not got him near the property. We haven't got him. In fact, we've got him away from the property. But we believe he was concealing his whereabouts and perhaps left his phone somewhere else. So it's like they manipulate things, everything to fit their narrative. Yeah, we know he's not reporting on the network. We know it's not proof that he's there, but we believe that he's turned his phone off there. We now want you to believe that he's stalking them, so that's his phone's now back on. He's obviously not turned his phone back off. But then you forget to cover this, which is this doesn't make any sense. The 5:36 to 8:30 p.m. on the day of the and that stop in itself. Why did you take his phone number? Why did you take Bryan Kohberger's phone number on the day of that? Why did Duke do that? It was a seatbelt violation, wasn't it? What, $10 fine? But you take his details and you take his phone number, that's an invasion. That's going against his amendments, Fourth Amendment. You know, what is that about? What are you taking his phone number for? Anyway, let me know down below, because again, I'm just going back through it and just none of it seems to make sense to me. You know, I get that they think that's the guy. They want you to believe that it's the guy. They weaponise this and they read it in a way that would read a certain way and it's done its job. You still believe that he's stalking. But answer me that. If you're someone who believes Kohberger's guilty, then answer that. How is the 5:36 to 8:30 p.m, so a 3-hour period where this phone is off network or not reporting to the network, and they're saying it's consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone travelled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicide occurred, when in fact his phone was in service after the homicides occurred. In fact, 28 minutes later. So what they're trying to suggest with that 3 hours is beyond me. Anyway, let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all later today.